Like, well, why is she there? What's the point? And I'm like, you don't know everything that she's doing behind the scenes. Like, there's no credits at the beginning of the videos to tell you that, like, so I came up with that idea for Sarah Connor. Like, I came to PH like, yo, I see how people are talking shit about my sister online, and I don't like it, and I hate it. And this is a way that we can help ourselves, the league, and she can have like this purpose and this thing that everybody sees and now understands better maybe of why it is that she's around. And PH immediately was just like, nah. Like, he had another plan in his head, which I didn't know at the time. But like, he pretty much was like, nah, you're gonna run that. You're gonna do that with SoulCon and Amzilla, who've been also like approaching me about trying to help. And you know, uh, you're gonna run that. And I think that that's a good example of like how like PH was always like looking out for everybody. That's why I got put on the team, because he saw how I wasn't waiting for him to give me something to do. He saw that I went out there and I made something for myself to do, to help benefit all of us, Um, and I think that that's something that like those men look for, and that's something that we all should look to do, you know, not not wait for, like when you were interviewing Tizzy. I think that was like a really great interview, right? That wait, no, it wasn't Tizzy. It was that young kid from Montreal. Who was that young kid from Montreal that you interviewed that he was talking about he had never had ciphered before? He didn't even know what a
17-year-old
cipher was.
JK.
Yeah, 17-year-old JK. Yeah, loved that kid. Loved his energy.
Loved his energy too.
Loved his energy. Um uh JK had, when he was being interviewed, he had somebody who just showed up and their profile name was what? JK's number one fan or something like that.
Yeah.
He had a fan page before me, right?
Yeah.
Like, because his fan base is smart. Like that. Well, it's not that they're smarter or better than our fan bases, right? Like everybody's
They're
fan
hipper.
base does what
You
they
know what it
can.
was
Yeah, they
probably
just
too? It
no.
was
It's just they
probably like
do.
one of his friends showing up to troll him too. It was probably some like,
Probably. I mean,
what?
it also might have just been that this is their generation. This is what they do. So
Hmm.
like that's the thing that comes naturally to them, is to
Right,
like,
right,
oh, my
right.
friend is doing this. If I'm gonna create a profile, let me create a profile that's like, boom, his number one fan. You
Like
know what I mean?
it could
Because
even be
there's
like a flex thing. Like, yo, I'm gonna be the number one fan page first or
fan.
whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna be your number one fan page. Now you got to come to me for your number one fan page stuff. Who knows what it is? It could be a million things. Me and my wife were playing that game the other night. We were watching people walk by and some drama was happening, and we were like, "Oh my god, you know what I just thought about? It could be." And she was like, "Oh, you know what I think it could be? It could be this."
That's a
And
great
we just
game.
sat there theorizing. Yeah, it's a great game. Love playing that game. Um, but yeah, so he had, number one fan page, and it's just that. It's just about get in and fit in and do whatever you can to help the movement. Like, if you love anything, like if there's anything that I could have anybody who sees this video walk away with, is that like, um uh if you love something, talk about it as much as you can, share it with your friends as much as you can, because that's all that those people have at first, really, and that's the only real way that they can find success. And so you talk about the things that you love, and you don't talk about the things that you hate, because you don't want to bring more unnecessary attention to things that you hate. I could list you a litany of things that I hate and despise: people, companies, movements, all sorts of things. But no, because why would I want to bring attention to that? I'd rather talk to you about like how Tragedy Gaddafi is like this great like criminally slept on rapper that like everybody should go listen to his entire catalog. In particular, his first album after being Intelligent Hoodlum, changing his name from Intelligent Hoodlum to Tragedy Gaddafi. Right now that album name escapes me. Um, but the point is, against all odds. But the point is that like I love Tragedy Gaddafi, and I think that like you talk about the things that you love, so you could bring more attention to them because they deserve that attention. Because they wouldn't have gotten that attention from you if they weren't dope and cool, you know? So like do that in your lifetime, you know, like do as much, you know, passing of the word of the things that you love and not talking about the things that you don't love, you know? Just don't bring more attention to the things that you don't love. It doesn't matter if it's already big and famous. You talking about it is gonna give it attention to one person in this world who might have never like paid attention to it. You
Yo,
know?
big
So it's
facts.
like you're better off
Yo,
just like
you know
giving
how
it
many
no
times,
energy.
people have complained about songs or movies or whatever just for me to go consume the media and fall in love with
Yep.
it? And I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all bugging. I
All the
love this shit.
time.
And I'm like, that's kind of
All
what
the
it is.
time.
But
I'm watching. I constantly you know plug to the network that we're on. We're on the EO Zoom network, and my our former well, not a former one of our previous guests, Dama, hosts a show with Baxter called ISO Boom, and like they'll like watch videos and like criticize artists. They got a segment called Destructive Criticism, and like you know how much I walk away from that segment, like where they're like, "Yo, this shit is trash." I'm like, I kind of want to listen to this again. Like, yo,
that's the
I'm
thing.
about to go. I'm about to go play
That's
this
it.
10 times this
Everybody
week,
was
bro.
like,
I'm about to go play this
that's
10
kind,
times this
of what
week.
happens. It's
Not the
like,
thing that people want me to listen to. No, not the like, not
for
that. I'm gonna listen to this one dude that like everybody probably is like, yo, he's whack. And I'm like, I like that pop, fam. That shit is knocking.
It's also like, I don't know, man. I just know that everybody was like Gucci Gang's trash, and everybody made videos about Gucci
Yo,
Gang
Gucci
this
Gang
year.
is shit,
And then
man.
I'm just sitting
Love
there
that
like,
song.
Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci. And I'm like, nah, like
Yeah.
everything about that's kind of got like a vibe to it. Now, I could appreciate how you might not want to consume this very young man's world. Totally fair. But I bet $100 that if you were real drunk in a club and some dancing was happening
Oh,
and
that
that
shit.
came on, you'd be alright with
What?
it.
Be
It's
wilding out.
That's just kind of what it is. But yeah, no, I
Yeah.
love it. I love watching people get like mad at stuff, and then I'm like, I guess it's like fair enough. And I don't even hate what they do or anything like that. I love criticism. I love
Yeah, no,
watching
oh
people's
no,
perspective.
yeah, no, I love watching their show. I
And
tune into the show
they
because
also are like, honestly, it's from a place of like, yo, this is what you can like
no, they're trying to help.
do
They're
better.
trying to help,
So
and they need to. They, a show like theirs needs to exist, right? Like I plugged it for a
facts.
reason, right?
It's a good
Again,
show.
like I'm talking about. You talk about the things that you love. You don't talk about the things that you hate, right? So like I'm not gonna like talk about something that I hate. I love the show and I love what they do on the show. But I'm just saying, like an example of that, of like where like sometimes talking about a thing that like you don't like ends up like giving it more
Yeah,
light.
yeah, yeah.
That's absolutely a case right there because like now well not absolutely a case because they're just doing their show, you know, but like in the middle of they're doing their show, they'll talk, you know, they'll be reviewing videos that like that they won't really enjoy too much. And like I'm like, yo, I
Yeah,
really fuck with
I
this.
would love
Like,
to
you
know the
know?
rate of songs that they have that reaction to in it. Because, yo, I've had this happen a million times as a reviewer. I fucking hate some shit on a Tuesday, and I make a video about it. And by Saturday, it's caught in my head, and I like the song. And I'm watching that, and I'm like, to see the video, and I'm like, I was talking some shit I don't agree with no more. And I wonder how often that happens where, like, they feel away, but that song still gets, like, stuck in their head. I'm going to ask that question one day. No, fair enough. The one thing I would say about complaining and negative stuff is if you can find a way to focus on actions rather than people,
Yeah.
and you can find a way to provide some solution to the problem, then I'm like mad okay with you saying whatever you want
Yeah.
on the subject. Because fair enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really worth shedding light
Yeah.
on some shit, but it's got to have like an educational component. It's got to be like, there's got to be a value proposition beyond you just venting negative energy into the world.